Oh, LaKeena, watch out. Here come the big one. I can't take it anymore. Bulls win. Sox win. If the Cubs win, stop. Ah! Oh, I can't take it no more. If you don't get that reference, we'll explain it to you. The Bulls had a fantastic finish against LeBron James's Lakers last night at the UC. The White Sox win the whole opener after embarrassing themselves all of last year. And the Cubs finally get it in the win column against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we had to discuss the NCAA tournament, which is shaping into perfect form for your top seeds. That and a whole lot more. It's the hashtag Friday Friday edition starts now. Welcome to another fun-filled hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports, the last one for the month of March. You're locked and loaded in real live in 11 color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't Sidney Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Oh, I can't take this win anymore. It's a shock to my system. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you fools the bill and be boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay on our social media channels. And we give you much love to our live game that's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago YouTube and Facebook pages. And don't you ever forget, whether we're talking sports, music, or entertainment, you always know our motto. We will provide.
We'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports. Of course, another one of our long-lost friends, if you will, Josh Frydman from WGNTV, and of course, one of the hosts of Game Night, which airs every night. He'll be on with us at 1 o'clock to talk Bears, Cubs, Sox, and a little college as well. So can't wait to get back to talking with him. Of course, we got our potpourri, if you will, for our last segment. We'll talk we'll talk about the East and West regions, and of course, we'll preview the Midwest and the South regions coming up tonight. And also, too, of course, JuJu's Watkins' injury, how it affects the women's tournament, and some big changes coming up at the top of some of CBS's top broadcast teams. So we'll talk about that and so much more. Of course, the NBA, the Bulls. We'll talk about that reference that Sid was saying earlier. If you guys are, if you're over 40, you know what he's talking about. And also, too, some big news. Yeah, well, also some big news, too, that came up within the last half hour. We'll talk about that, too. But first, Sid, of course, it was the official start of opening day in Major League Baseball. And what do you know? Both the Cubs and the Sox both won yesterday. Well, go figure. Of course, the White Sox. I think a lot of people had them winning the home opener against the Angels, but they for the first time, I guess you could say no. And well, it took them didn't do it too much last year, but they actually like the MLB team. They beat the Angels 8-1, and Sean Burke, of course, there were some head scratches of why he gets to start, but he actually had a good outing: 3 hits, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. And of course, everybody contributed. Vargas contributed. Robert Jr. also contributed a little bit. Benintendi had 3 RBIs, so I guess his shoulder's doing just fine. Sosa had a couple RBIs, so nice showing there by the young squad. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that the White Sox are going to be 162-1 or whatever, but at least for right now, they actually look like a competent baseball team.
First of all, let me give a shout out to the Chicago Sports Bums and the guys and gals at Section 108 for a great tailgate at Lot B yesterday. I know they were featured on a couple of local TV stations here in town, so shouts out to them. I was down there yesterday along with the rest of White Sox, sort of both old and new, and it was a great time before the game. I told a few fans anything that happens in there, we on we on pins and needles. But getting back to yesterday's game, they played like a competent MLB team, as we've been saying for the duration of spring training. New manager Will Venable will be a big improvement, anything better than Pedro Grifol, and you saw that yesterday. He trusted Sean Burke. He only threw 73 pitches through 6 innings, only giving up 6 hits. Like you mentioned, 3 strikeouts, no walks, which was very important. Burke did struggle with some control early on in the first couple of innings, but after that he settled in, and it helps we have not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs. One courtesy of Austin, not AC Slater. Then of course Lenny Sosa in the 8th inning, and of course Andrew Benintendi, who I believe they should be trading at the trade deadline along with Luis Robert Jr., but more on that later. But when you get offensive backing like that to go along with some good starting pitching and a not so bad bullpen, you're going to win some games. Like you said, the White Sox are not competing for anything this year. You're looking for improvements with some of the young guys. They are here right now, and some of them they may be called up as the season goes along. But that looked like a professional team yesterday. And as I told some people before the game yesterday, anything that was the opposite of what I saw last year, outside of Garrett Crochet's opening day performance against the Tigers with that ugly 1-0 loss, anything that was better than last year, I'll take it. And yesterday was just perfect.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown with you. Now, of course, unfortunately, I couldn't watch any of not the local baseball yesterday, but I was able to watch a lot of the other baseball. We'll get to that in a bit here. But I think the White Sox, I think if you're a White Sox, and a White Sox fan, you're probably looking for something within, if you can win about 60 games, you'll take that if you're the White Sox. If you see like guys like Slater, who had a really good showing yesterday. Vargas had a couple of RBIs yesterday. Those are the kind of guys you want. The young guys to kind of come in, and Sosa as well. This is what you want. You want the young guys to come in and kind of contribute either way. Now, will this be consistent? Probably not. But again, you want to show signs, and I think this is what you asked for yesterday. Burke looked good. So I think that he actually got Mike Trout to pop up a couple of times, so that helps a lot of with the confidence. So at least for right now, I guess the White Sox actually look good. That's all you can ask for.
And also, too, very importantly, we said that this White Sox team should be better defensively yesterday. Unless I missed something, no errors. The defense was excellent yesterday.
All right, let's go across town. Well, we'll go across the country in Arizona as the Cubs had got their first win of the season. Thank goodness, of course, losing a couple over in Tokyo against the Dodgers during the Tokyo series, but they actually looked okay yesterday. I mean, Justin Steele, I know he didn't have a good showing in the second game of that series, but that Tokyo series, but 6 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, only 2 strikeouts. But look, thanks to Ian Happ, who had a whole run and 3 RBIs. He had Miguel Amaya, who actually now leads, as of right now, leads the the majors in RBIs right now. So go figure with that one. But he actually looked good. I mean, look, the bullpen actually didn't blow yesterday, so that helped a little bit. Ryan Presley, only earned one, but he got the save there. But yeah, it was an interesting little game there. But again, look, I know that I'm not worried about Steele right now, but thank God for the offense. That's all I can say about the Cubs.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth, and that was my thought watching last night's game. I know we talked about it a little bit before we went on air live. Justin Steele didn't look that great in the opener against the Dodgers. Last night against the D-backs. every time the Cubs put a couple of runs on the board, especially in that second inning, he came back and gave up a couple more to Arizona. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm worried about him. I know it's very different than what he suffered through with that injury last year in that opener against Texas, and that kind of set him back for the entire year. But this year, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm worried about him yet. I know he was through 73 pitches in the first 4 innings, which was not good last night. He was laboring very much, and I question Cubs manager Craig Counsell of going to him again right away, even though they almost had a week off between this series and the Dodgers series. I question why Craig Counsell did that, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. But like you said, thank goodness for the offense. Ian Happ looked excellent last night. Miguel Amaya, where you thought he should be a starting catcher or not, he came through with a bat last night. And the bullpen looked better than the starting pitcher last night. But I said this to you before we came on air, and I'll say this here. The Cubs, I believe they're going to score some runs this year. That's not going to be the problem, unlike last year after the month of May. But if that starting pitcher is not what it was last year, or even close to what it was last year, this team's in trouble, especially given the outlook of the NL Central. So the Cubs better tighten up their starting rotation. If they can get back to what they even remotely were last year, I think this team will be fine. But I'm not ready to jump off the bandwagon just yet. The offense does look good. Just hopefully you'll start to see the starting pitcher catch up to what this offense could be this year.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing here. Tyon Gills goes up tonight against Merrill Kelly, so we'll see if that happens there. Now, real quick, I know we got to go to break, but what was your outside of baseball? What was your standout from yesterday?
Shohei Ohtani, another home run on the Dodgers opening night. How weird they're getting their rings tonight and not last night, but I digress. But Shohei Ohtani proving that he's still the best player in baseball. The Tigers fought hard, but the Dodgers had enough at the end. Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts both returned to the lineup last night as the Dodgers beat the Tigers in the Dodgers home opener. Juan Soto got his first hit as a New York Met, but Clayton Holmes, the former closer of the Mets last year, now emergency fifth starter for the Mets, did not look good yesterday. The Astros won that game. And Joe Buck returned to the booth for ESPN for baseball. The Yankees beat the Brewers by the score 4-2. Trevor Williams, who was a Brewers closer last year, now with the Yankees, came in and shut the door yesterday. After letting 2 men on to start the ninth inning for Milwaukee, he shut the door and the Yankees won their first game of the year at home.
Yeah, when Austin Wells hit his first home run, major league home run, Buck said, "See ya." So he actually sounded good.
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure with that. But yeah, he actually sounded pretty good. You could tell he was having fun, and that was a great game. And hopefully we'll probably do more of those games. This is the last season for ESPN for baseball, so we'll see what happens there. Now for me, Taylor O'Neill, of course, he homered a 6th straight opening day for the Orioles as they beat the Blue Jays. Alex Baum's RBI, and also Schwarber had a Schwarbomb. Kyle Schwarber had a Schwarbomb as they were able, and they took care of the Nationals. Excuse me. Flores had a touchdown home run for the Giants. They beat the Reds, and Josh Hader in the if you will, like you said, he fans Juan Soto to keep the Mets from catching up against the Astros. They were able to hold on there. And of course, Forrest Stock, Gavin Sheets, he tied the score for them, and they were able to get into gear. The Padres did against the Braves. So those are some of my standouts from opening day yesterday.
We'll give you the national TV schedule for this weekend. Tonight is the return of Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV+. Baltimore and Toronto will continue their series tonight. That's at 6:07. And, of course, an hour later tonight at 7:10 on Apple TV+, the Mets will take on the Astros. For Saturday on FS1, the Twins and Cardinals will do battle from St. Louis. Fox Saturday Baseball, your Saturday night game of the week. Most of you will see the Mets at the Astros, while others will see the Braves at the Padres. And then for Sunday night baseball at 6 o'clock on ESPN, it will be the Atlanta Braves facing off against the San Diego Padres, the rematch of last year's NL wildcard round.
All right, folks, we'll take a really quick break. We'll talk with Josh Frydman with the Cubs and White Sox, happening to see what his synopsis for this season in a bit after the top of the hour. But first, of course, we're going to go to the hardwood NBA style as well. I wish we had the highlights of probably one of the most hectic 45 seconds you'll ever see, probably all NBA season. And some breaking news: a playoff team has given their coach the boot. Wonder why. We'll talk about that and so much more. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports, Hot Sports, South Chicago. NBA talk coming up right after this.
Oh!
Brother.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded and live and in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into the Bulls' exciting win over the Lakers last night and the rest of the NBA, including some breaking news from the coaching circuit, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Probably one of the more, I guess, like hectic 45 seconds, however you want to say it, 40, 45. Okay, so I guess, it gets it all started. Okay, let me see if I can do this right. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch it live, folks. So I think you better take it because since you actually watched it last night live.
Yeah, I saw the highlights live last night, and then again this morning because it was that damn good. But Patrick Williams hit a three. The Bulls were down 2. LeBron James throws in a lazy ass. Remember, Anthony Mason threw that inbounds pass to Reggie Miller back in the '95 playoffs in Game 1. He hit those 2 3-pointers in a row, which the Pacers stole Game 1 to MSG. It was kind of like that lazy ass pass. So Patrick Williams for the Bulls hit a 3-point shot from the left corner. The Bulls trailed by 2. LeBron James for the Lakers throws a lazy-ass inbounds pass stolen by Josh Giddey, gives it to a hot open Kobe White. He hits the 3. The Bulls led by 1. Then, with 6 seconds left, Austin Reeves of the Lakers gives the Lakers the lead with a easy layup to the basket. After that, the Bulls had no timeouts left, so they had to hit almost a miracle shot. Josh Giddey gets the ball, goes past half court, throws up a prayer, and it went in. And the Bulls ended up winning 119-117. The Lakers were leading as much as 18 points. And as we told you guys on our last show on Monday, after the Lakers lost to the Bulls by 30-plus points at their place last weekend, we said LeBron James was going to put on the show for the fans. He did with 2 monster dunks last night. But the Bulls stayed with it. They got hot shooting from Kobe White, Josh Giddey, and Kevin Huerter. Don't hurt him, as Stacey Keith would say. And it all paid off at the end. And the Bulls are now 33-40 on the year. The Lakers are now 44-29 on the year. We'll get to the Lakers later. But for this Bulls team, LaKeena, dare I say that they're probably going to host a play-in game as the 7th seed? Don't tell me this is possible. Given the fact that you traded away Zach LaVine, even though the offense does look better. Given the fact that 3/4 of your market cannot see the games on your station because of the not-so deal with Xfinity/Comcast, the hell with that antenna, the hell with that streaming service. I'm just saying. Given those factors and the tennis being in flux for the season, except for last night because it was the Lakers, this Bulls team are making noise. And not to me, people, I'm not going to say I'm not paying attention to it. Even if they wanted to pay attention to it, they can't.
I think so. They can. Well, I'm included in that one as well. Whether it's the whole thing with Comcast and YouTube TV, or which I have, you can't even watch a lot of the regional sports channels. And how ironic, right? I mean, they won 4 in a row. They won 8 of their last 10. Probably one of the hottest teams in the NBA, next to the Celtics. And of course, Kobe winning for the 2nd straight week, winning Eastern Conference Player of the Week honor. So deserving there. And you really don't know what to say about this team. They're only 2 games back of that 7 seed. So, and there's still about 9 games left. So yeah, would it be ironic if they do end up getting that 7 seed and only have to win 1 playoff game to get into the playoff, the main draw? I mean, sure, why not? I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you're just like. I mean, you're getting contributions from everybody. We've seen the big run that Kobe White's been in. Also, Giddey's playing well. Of course, he's going to want that big contract this summer. Horder's been really solid. I mean, I can say that was a bad LeBron inbounds, but I guess P Will doing his best Larry Bird impression, with that steal there. But it's sort of interesting too. Like everyone else has been contributing. Terry's been hitting some big shots. So Herder's been, like I said, Herder's been really good as well. So yeah, I think it's sort of one of those things where you're just like they play Dallas tomorrow night at home. So kind of a homecoming for Anthony Davis. So
if he
sure,
plays.
I mean, yeah. So sure, why not? I mean, it's it's like well, what the hell? I mean, sure. And the whole thing with Stephen A. The whole thing with Stephen A. says LeBron. Well, we won't talk about it because we don't want to waste any time. But that whole thing is just yeah. But but the Bulls. I mean, sure. What the hell? I mean, yeah. I know I saw all the snarky tweets from people like Stilby and some of the other folks. I mean, okay. I mean, look, you gotta see what you can get with this Bulls team at this point.
Yeah, if they host a play-in game like they did last year against Atlanta, Michael and Jerry Mercer will be happy. We lumped into some extra money, which we didn't expect, but we'll take it. And we'll possibly have to pay Josh Giddey between $20 and $40 million with that rookie extension for next year. Does Josh Giddey deserve to be paid? Yes. If it was my money, will I give him $40 million a year? No. I know that's what the market is set by, but he's definitely earned a spot for this team next year. I'm not sure I would give him 40 mil per year, but that's not my decision to decide. But could AK and Mark Eversley lump into another young core again by mistake? What I mean by that is Montez Buzelis. He's been playing well ever since the Zach LaVine trade. You see his confidence is rising. We talk about Josh Giddey. I told you that this was coming ever since the All-Star break. And look what's happening now. Kobe White, as you mentioned, he's been turning it on ever since his return from injury over a month and a half ago. So the Bulls, you could argue that they lumped into their core already with Kobe White, Josh Giddey, and Midas Buzelis. Now, is that going to win you a championship? No. You still got to get a veteran superstar in there. But I think AK and Mark Evans are saying to themselves, we might have let themselves into a core. We may could get this thing turned around quicker than we thought. But in my opinion, the Bulls still have a long way to go.
You listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown with you. If you talk some Bulls and NBA, I think. Look, I mean, if you want Gideon White and excuse me, Ayo perhaps, and Buzelis, of course, that those are your core for. Okay, fine, you want to build around that. Okay, so are you going to have the money? Is it going to have the flexibility to try to maybe get a veteran superstar to perhaps join them, and a couple other role players as well? So it's sort of one of those things where you're just like, okay, this is what you get for being in NBA purgatory, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what AK does, but yeah, this is definitely going to put them in a quandary.
Yeah, and given their TV situation, which is a whole nother issue, the Bulls, given the way that the bottom half of the Eastern Conference is after Indiana, Detroit in their 4th, 5th spot, it's literally up for grabs. But let's be realistic here. Let's just say the Bulls get that 7th spot, host the play-in game. I'm sure that's Michael Reinsdorf calling, tell them to hold on. We're doing the show. But let's just say the Bulls host that play-in game and win to get into the playoffs. We all know they only get that butts kicked by Boston or Cleveland. Let's be real, but the Reinsdorfs again will have 2 additional home playoff games this year if that scenario happens. But they got to stick to the plan of picking a lane, sticking to the plan, and get this thing turned around as quickly as possible.
All right, so they, like I said, they play Dallas tomorrow. If AD plays, so that's going to be interesting to see if he plays. But I know he's been in and out of the lineup these last week and a half, 2 weeks since he's been back from injury. So we'll see what happens there now. So breaking news. Well, first off, the Thunder beat the Grizzlies 125-104 last night, and excuse me. See, I'm all choked up here about this. 37 points for SGA. Jalen Williams had 20 points. Hardenstein had 18. And as far as the Grizzlies are concerned, John Morant did not play yesterday, and I think that might have played a part. But so now we'll tell you in a second. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 27 points. Scottie Pippen Jr. had 17. So he's been hoping up there with Memphis. But the big news is that, and this came within the last hour and a half, they fired head coach Taylor Jenkins kind of out of nowhere. They're right there in the top 5 in the West, and there's only 9 games left. And I've been trying to see like what the heck happened. So were you able to find anything?
I was trying to, but we had to get ready for our show. I'm not saying this is a fact. I don't know, but my guess is, especially the timing is weird because the month of March will be over by the time we do our next show on Monday. You only have less than 2.5 weeks left in the regular season now. Why are you doing this now? You could have waited to after their season concluded in the playoffs, but it had to be something where it had to be one of 2 things. I'm not saying this is it, but it's just the way this business works. Players mutiny, or definitely a strong disagreement between him and management. It's got to be one of those 2 things. Because why would you do this now where your regular season ends? Because this is the drive to the playoffs. The head coaches are setting their rotations, and you got to the chemistry is already built, so you got to build that cohesiveness, that consistency heading toward the playoffs, and you start to contemplate matchups between the potential teams that you're going to face in that first round. Like I said, it's got to be players mutiny or issue between the coach and management, or with players that should have played that shouldn't have played, or vice versa. It's got to be one of those 2 scenarios.
Yeah, they're right there in the thick of it. They're tied with the Lakers. Of course,
right.
They got a tiebreaker because they won the season series in that 4 and 5 spot. And it is sort of weird. I know people are wondering, did John Morant, was this because of him? Because remember, he didn't play last night in that game against the Thunder. So I'm wondering, did that play a little bit of a part, or was it a disciplinary thing? I don't know, but you gotta wonder. I'm sure Windhorse and Charms are all on the case, so yeah, you gotta. I'm hopefully we'll find out something, because it seems like this sort of literally came out of nowhere, and yeah, it's just crazy how all that played out. But yeah, whatever happened, I'm sure it'll be leaked out. It's gonna come out somehow.
Yeah. And we all know that this is the NBA is a players league. So whenever a big time superstar complains, if that's the case here, usually the player wins 9 times out of 10. So, but like you said, we'll find out something soon, because the regular season is almost over. They're a top 4 team in the West. They've been consistent all year, despite Ja Morant missing games. And something happened here. And like you said, we're going to find out sooner rather than later exactly what happened, because the timing of this is just strange. It's just strange.
Recapping the rest of the games from last night. Miami, they've won 3 in a row. They've won 4 of their last 7. Tyler Hero had 36 points. They beat Atlanta. Indiana 162-109. No, that's not a typo, folks. Over Washington. So if you took the over, you had a nice Thursday night there, and that's a franchise record, and that's that's the most allowed by the Wizards. Of course, we know the Wizards are tanking, so that's sort of I think if you're with Carlisle, you'll take that. But
the old Pacer ABA days with that score.
Oh yeah, they scored like 150, 140, 150. Yeah, I've seen the clips of those.
Yeah, Mel Daniels, old Bob Slick
yes,
Leonard,
yes.
Clark Kellogg.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, I saw Clark's afro there. I know they tease about it once in a while, but you gotta look it up, folks. Yeah, he gets some afro. Well, even back in that day, but yeah, franchise record, of course. That's of course the most given up by a Wizards team. Dallas, they're hanging on the last playoff spot. They beat Orlando. Cleveland beat San Antonio. Jared Allen had 29 there in that game. Those are your scores from Thursday, last night.
Yeah, the rematch for the 07 finals. Cleveland got their lid bag.
All right, so back to Wednesday's games. Boston, no trouble with Phoenix. Porzingis had 30 points there. 30 points to lose never for KD. Denver beat Milwaukee. The Clippers beat the Knicks, and James Harden at 25. And the Clippers were actually down for a lot of this game, but yeah, they were able to come back in that second quarter and took control of the game, and they were able to beat the Knicks at MSG.
Yeah, the Knicks need Jalen Brunson back healthy, because without him, even though they're better defensively, Tibbs, as we talked about all year long, I know Mikal Bridges, he said it a couple of weeks ago in front of the media that he needs to give some guys, including himself, a break. Because remember, all 5 of their stars are in top 8 in terms of minutes played in the NBA this season. So maybe Tibbs doesn't trust his bench. Whatever the issue is, he has to change it up a bit, because the playoffs are near. Remember what happened at the end of the series against Indiana last year, with all the players, including Brunson, they were tired and injured. They dropped like flies, and the Pacers went on to win Game 7 at their place. So the Knicks got to get healthy here in time for the playoffs, and that's including the return of Jalen Brunson, I should say. But going back to that Nuggets Bucks game, best wishes to Damian Lillard. I know he has blood clots; he hasn't played. Hopefully he'll get back healthy soon. I know we've been teasing that Milwaukee's in a free fall, and rightfully so. But if Milwaukee has another embarrassing early exit from the playoffs this year, I said this during our show during the All-Star break. I'll say it here. You don't think that in 1 second that Giannis will probably ask out of Milwaukee? Think about it.
Yeah, there have been some rumors about that. Of course, Dame. They sort of similar to what happened with Wembanyama, and it seems like that something's going on over there. It's his shoulder, and now it's Dame's calf. Blood clots were discovered there. So something's amiss there, but we'll see. Best wishes to him. The Lakers edged out the Pacers. Luka had 34 there in that game. Toronto beat Brooklyn, and the Wizards beat the Sixers. A battle of the tanking teams.
Yeah, with that Lakers game, karma came back to bite him in the you-know-what last night with the Bulls. But LeBron James, after hanging out with Pat McAfee, which we'll not get into, had the tip in for the game winner as the Lakers win a tough one on the road against the Pacers in a rematch of the 2000 NBA Finals.
Oh goodness, I think a couple of guys from
And it's actually this season's the 25th anniversary of that first Shaq and Kobe team that won the title. In the first year of Phil Jackson too. I digress.
Yeah, right, exactly. Going to Tuesday's games, OKC, no trouble with the Kings. SGA had 32 there. Cleveland, held off Portland. Memphis, good times for Memphis. 140 to 103 over Utah. Houston beat Atlanta. The Knicks beat Dallas. Miami beat Golden State. We'll talk about update step status in a second. Detroit, no trouble with San Antonio, and Orlando edge out the Hornets.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler did not have a great performance in his return to South Beach. I know he said it was just another game that was a bunch of BS. Of course, at that game, you could tell that the Warriors missed Steph Curry. If they would have had it, they probably would have won.
Yeah, and I think Coach Kerr, updated Curry staff. I think they're trying to get him maybe about this time next week. That's what he's saying. So they haven't been playing very well without him. So I'm hoping that they can, they need stuff back there. They need him back quick.
Yeah, exactly. Monday's results quickly. We had the Celtics over the Kings. Milwaukee loses a close one to the Phoenix Suns. New Orleans beats Philadelphia. The Tank Bowl. The Mavericks got by Brooklyn. Toronto defeated the Wizards in our nation's capital. Another Tank Bowl. The Lakers lost their first game on the East Coast road trip to the Magic by 12. And, of course, the Pacers beat the Timberwolves by 16.
All right, going into the schedule for us this weekend. Tonight, of course, no doubleheader on ESPN because of the women's regional semifinals. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But as for tonight's games, I should say, you got Cleveland and Detroit. The Clippers continue their East Coast trip. They go up a little bit further north in the borough to face Brooklyn. Charlotte meets Toronto. The Knicks and the Bucks at 7. The lone NBA TV game, national game for tonight, it'll be Phoenix and Minnesota. Phoenix needs to win and keep pace with Dallas for that last spot. Golden State and New Orleans, and Utah and Denver.
Tomorrow's schedule looks like this. As LaKeena mentioned, the Mavericks and the Bulls will play at the UC at 7 p.m. The other games to follow for tomorrow, Saturday night. The Kings at the Orlando take on the Magic. Brooklyn Nets and the Washington Wizards will do battle in our nation's capital to battle the tank teams there. Miami will visit Philadelphia. Big game for the Heat as they try to keep up with the Bulls and the Magic. You can say for what it's worth. The Lakers go to continue their road trip. They'll visit Memphis. Memphis will have a new head coach, probably one of the assistants. Oklahoma City will host the Indiana Pacers. You probably should take the over on this one if you're a casual betting person like myself. And, of course, the lone NBA TV Saturday night game will feature the Boston Celtics against the San Antonio Spurs.
Sunday. The Clippers and Cleveland. That should be a fun one. NBA Finals preview, perhaps? Maybe. We'll see. The first game, the NBA TV doubleheader, you got Portland and the Knicks. Don't know why that game was the first one, but okay. Atlanta and Milwaukee. Detroit and Minnesota. That should be a fun one there in the Twin Cities. Charlotte and New Orleans. Golden State and San Antonio. The Battle of the Tank teams. You got Toronto and Philadelphia, and the other NBA TV game should be a good one. Take the over, I guess. Here you got Houston and Phoenix.
Right, and that's your schedule for the NBA for this week. And as you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, still LaKeena here with you. LaKeena, we have another minute or so left before we shut down hour number one. Going to these playoff races, as we said, the Western Conference, I think for the play-in tournament is more exciting. You got like 5 teams for like 4 spots with the Clippers, the T-Wolves, the Suns, the Mavericks, and of course the Warriors. I'm not going to sit here and say that Memphis will slip just because they fired their head coach earlier today. But like I said before, since the Jimmy Butler trade, wherever the Warriors finish, whether you're the Lakers, the Rockets, I'll still throw Memphis up there for now. If you're one of those three teams and the Warriors are healthy come playoff time, you don't want to face the Warriors in that first round. I'm not going to sit here and say the Lakers are purposely tanking games, but I don't think they want to face the Warriors in the first round.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think if you're the Lakers, they need to tighten up on their defense. That was really the thing that killed them yesterday, last night, I should say, against the Bulls. And I feel like that's sort of like they gotta tighten up, because if not, they're going to be in that little dangerous spot where you don't want to be. You're going to have to be facing perhaps maybe a Minnesota or a Golden State, where they match up well with the Lakers. So they better get it together, because I think if Golden State, I think they should see Steph back. Steph just needs to come back, and look, because they've been up and down. Jimmy, you can say all he wants that he didn't care about that game against Miami Heat. I know he was pissed at his performance a couple of days ago. But yeah, I think if you're the Warriors, you want to try to get out of that 7-10 spot, and if you can, if you're Lakers, get back to that 3 range if you can. There's still about 9 games left. There's only like a couple of games separation. You just got to tighten up on their defense. That's the only way they can do it.
Like I said, we'll dive into the Bulls a little bit deeper with our next cats coming up in our next hour of the show. More Second City Sports will continue following these messages with more sports and more fun with our guy, longtime friend, Josh Frydman from WGN Sports in Chicago. He'll hop on with us to talk Bears, the last night's exciting finish with the Bulls and the Lakers, and our 2 Chicago teams both winning yesterday. That and a whole lot more. It's the hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago continues.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it! Yes, sir!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports # Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and you're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
We'll continue the Chicago Sports Talk with our next guest. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
We haven't had him on in a while, Sid. He's now a father, and of course, you see him on WGNTV during the evening news, as well as game night, which you can, every night at 10:30 on WGNTV. He's the one, the only, the super cool Mr. Josh Frydman. Hey,
Yay!
Josh! Oh, that's a heck of an intro, guys. I'll tell Jarrett and Caitlin and Chris they got to intro me to the show every night, like you guys do. Appreciate being back on with both of you, Sid and LaKeena, and yeah, it's an interesting time in Chicago sports. Lots going on to discuss, and I know you guys do it all the time. So happy to jump on for a few minutes with you guys.
Of course. Let's start yesterday. That crazy finish against the Lakers. So I don't think anybody saw that coming. This run, like, did you see this coming? I mean, it's just what the huh? Who are these guys?
It's the Arturas Karnisovas, Mark Eversley master plan, guys. Right? You finally trade your biggest asset in Zach LaVine, and you go on a 6-game losing streak, and then you're one of the best and most exciting teams in the NBA the last month. Who knew? But no, of course I did not see this coming. I will say last night, watching that game in the sports office at WGN, right, probably an hour before 10:30, our GN sports show, when Josh Giddey, well, first of all, when Patrick Williams hits the three, Giddey makes the steal, kicks it to Kobe for the three, I screamed pretty loudly. But when Giddey hit the three at half court to beat the Lakers, I joked to my friends, I haven't screamed like that for a Bulls game since Derrick Rose 2015 walk-off three against the Cavs in the playoffs. That's what that feeling felt like, in different scenarios, obviously. But, we haven't had those really feel-good moments for Bulls fans in several years. And it felt like one, to do it in LeBron's face as well at United Center, seeing the passion and the excitement on the Bulls players' faces, right? That's a moment you love to see. The fans were going berserk too, but the players and kind of like how they are starting to gel together. And it's on the backs of Josh Giddey and Kobe White, and moving LaVine away from this team and giving more guys an opportunity for minutes, especially ball handlers like Giddey, who needed the ball in his hand. That's why OKC, it was never really a match for him. And the Bulls identified the talents. It was looked at like, you're really going to give up an all-defensive player and Alex Caruso for just Josh Giddey and no trade assets. And, I was one of those guys that also didn't like that deal at the time, especially because you're going to have to make a decision to pay Josh Giddey, which he's probably like Rod Tidwell to Jerry Maguire. Show me the money right now, right? So, but it's looking like, you're going to deal with the turnovers is always going to be part of his game. But he's such a playmaker. The assists, the rebounds, putting up 20 points a game. He's second in Bulls franchise history in triple doubles for a season, guys. It's crazy. So it doesn't seem to be all empty right now. And yeah, 9 of 11. We're joking. We're doing like play-in standings in the East, and look, we'll take the wins where you can get them. Do I think the Bulls, if they get in the actual playoffs, are a threat to beat Cleveland or Boston? No, but that's what this Bulls team wants. They want to be relevant to the point of we're going to be in the main conversation of the top 8, and we're going to play a 5-game series, probably get one against, a 7-game series, but get one win. So maybe 5 games against one of those top teams, and they'll sell that to the fan base in the offseason. And that's not a long-term strategy, but right now you're going to take the positives that are coming out of United Center.
Yeah. And don't forget Jerry and Michael Ryan. So given the issues with the new TV, and they're not broadcasting their game, so but they'll get an extra or two, as you mentioned, a playoff game, and they'll walk home happy with extra money in their pocket. But before we move on, I want to ask you about Matas Buzelis, the Bulls rookie. He didn't get much playing time during the first half of the year. A large part of that it was because of Zach LaVine, but after the Zach LaVine trade, this young man has really taken off. Give us your thoughts about Matas Buzelis' rookie season thus far.
Yeah, I got a chance to interview Matas before the draft last year and did a sit down with him, got to go to his gym in the suburbs where he works out with his private trainer, see him throw down some dunks, and you saw the athleticism. And to me, he felt very raw because of just how young he was, skipping college, going to the G League, where I loved the pick because he fell to the Bulls, but I thought he's going to be a little bit of a project, and he's not going to contribute right away. So to see him progress and look like an NBA player right away, pretty much, and then start to get the minutes and get in Billy's circle of trust a little bit more, that's been great. It's a win so far for the scouting and the management, which you'll take. There haven't been a ton for this regime, right? Obviously Patrick Williams is the big one that stands out. That I just don't think he was worthy of a top 4 pick at the time, and has not progressed the way you'd want him to. He's still very young if you just look at it, but when a guy's in the NBA 4 or 5 years, you kind of get a little more of a sense of who he is. So with Buzelis, again, you get a guy who has the length and athleticism, slam dunk participant in year 1. He's an engaging personality, kind of understands just what it means to play for the Bulls in his hometown, what it means, what it takes to get better and work at his craft. At times he does go off and we're in there talking to him. He's always humble about it. He's always like, yeah, that was a good game for me, but I got to work on this. And that's a great mentality to have for a guy still in his teens. So yeah, I've been impressed with Modest. I think there's obviously a lot of room to grow in his game. And he's not in there always in those crunch time situations, which you can argue, again, is that better for the long-term growth of this Bulls team to have Modest learn in the final 5 minutes of games versus maybe trying for a win that night on a team that's still 7 games under 500?
All right, let's switch gears and talk Bulls for a bit here, Josh. So, of course, you've seen it, a lot of the Ben Johnson, I should say, influence with some of the moves, of course, beefing up the O-line, getting a veteran edge rusher. So what do you do if you're the Bears in that top 10 pick? Do you get a running back, Ashton Genty? Do you get another pass rusher? Do you get another O-line for depth? Do you trade back? What say you? What do you think Ryan Post is going to do here?
It's the $1 million question, right? We've had a lot of time to debate it. We'll get to do it for another month until the draft in Green Bay, I believe a month from yesterday. So it's going to be here before we know it. But personally, I am not on the Ashton Genty train, as talented as he is. And I think he's going to be a great running back. Don't get me wrong. But I do not spend top 10 draft capital on a running back. I point to, as a great example, the Atlanta Falcons. Look who they've drafted in the top 10 over the years. Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson. And where have they gone with it? No playoffs, wins to show for it. Obviously, the Kirk Cousins signing didn't work out for them either, and they used another top pick on a guy who barely got any playing time in Michael Penix. But they're, to me, an example of why, even though the talent is there, you're building the team opposite of what you should and backwards. And the Bears were doing that last year too, when they were going and making a signing of DeAndre Swift on day 1 of free agency, like minute 1 of free agency, and signing Keenan Allen, making a trade for him, in the offseason. Splashy moves for your rookie quarterback. What do you do with the second top 10 pick? You go get another wide receiver. These are all sexy moves, but it felt like, you were getting all the expensive marble for the kitchen, and you didn't have a floor. You didn't have any foundation to build with. And I think they learned their lesson. Obviously, that showed in the offseason what Ryan Poles was able to do. Shoring up your guard position, your center position, which I thought was most important. The Bears always have lacked a true center, really going back to Olin Kreutz. And so to get Dahlman, the number 1 center on the market, I don't care if you overpaid him. You got to get that position locked down. And then to trade for Tooney and Jonah Jackson, the experience he has going back to the Detroit with Ben Johnson, I'm gonna say that's a Ben Johnson move, and if he trusts that Jonah Jackson was playing out of position last year and not in a good situation and not healthy, and he'll be able to work with him this year, I'm gonna buy into that. And so to me, I'm going back to the line for that top 10 pick. I'm going either with an offensive tackle, who I still think Braxton Jones, to me, he's like a Charles Leno type, late round draft pick success, but he's a middling left tackle. And if you want to be a great offensive line, like Detroit has, like Philly has, you go and you invest even more in the trenches. Don't feel like you're done. And the other side of that, I would go defensive line too. I think if you want to get another stud nose guard, if Mason Graham drops from Michigan, if you want to get a pass rusher, you can never have too much. And you're still lacking, I think, a little bit on that defensive line, and outside of Montez Sweat, you've got some pieces there, but we're not sure who that's going to be to get to the quarterback consistently. So to me, I'd still invest in the trenches. There's talk of Tyler Warren, the tight end, another toy to use for Ben Johnson. I'd be a little more into that than I would Genty, honestly, because I think Ben Johnson's going to use multiple tight ends, and Warren could be a piece to the puzzle that fits better. But I'd still go trenches. I know it's not sexy, but that's where I would go.
Sticking with the Bears defense, Josh, with their later picks, I know the conversation has been brought up over the last few days. Given the health of Jaquan Brisker, I know he missed the majority of last season due to concussion issues, but when he's healthy, he's one of the best young secondary players in the league. He's always a ball hawk, and we've seen flashes throughout his young Bears career. Do you think that the Bears will use one of their later round picks on the safety, in just in case that his health issues continue?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And look, I like watching Jaquan Brisker play. He's got that bravado, that confidence when he's on the team. He's a leader in the locker room, but he's also one of those leaders on the field, and you can see that by the way he plays. Unfortunately, sometimes the way he plays gets him in trouble physically. And when you have reoccurring concussions and you get hurt, what was that, week 5, week 4 maybe last year? I mean, it was so early in the season you forget about it. I think it was before the London trip, if I remember. It was the Carolina game. And for him not to return, that to me is very scary to watch, because if you're going through concussion symptoms for the entire season, basically, and even if you feel good about where you are going to this year, if you get one more concussion, one more head injury, is that it? Maybe you call it a career. You just don't know as talented as he is. So if you're the Bears, you have to have an insurance policy. I like the secondary. Obviously, you got a number one anchor in the corner in Jalen Johnson, but I don't think enough people talk about Kyler Gordon, a guy who also needs to stay on the field and be healthy, but he's a stud nickel corner. He's a guy that Ben Johnson pointed out in his press conferences by name as well. So the secondary, again, has the makings of being a very strong unit for the Bears. Brisker being back there is key for that being maybe a top 10 unit in the NFL. And so if you're a little bit worried about his health, yeah, I think safety is a little bit of a spot where you can invest later in the draft for sure.
We're chatting with our buddy, WGNTV's Josh Frydman here on Second State Sports on Sports. Just got LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown with you. Let's start the rest of the NFL for a second here, Josh. I guess the big news here is that Aaron Rodgers looks like Russell Wilson has signed with the Giants. The Steelers are kind of in limbo. Now the rumors are that maybe Rodgers might sit out this season, or perhaps maybe until somebody signs him. So what do you think is going to happen with Rodgers?
Yeah, worst reality show ever. Like, I just don't care about Aaron Rodgers anymore. Honestly, I'm like, he's a guy who, when I watched him, and it pained me because he's a Packer. He was a Packer for so long and beat the Bears, owned the Bears. When I watched him play, he was more talented than Tom Brady. He was more talented than almost any quarterback I had seen in my lifetime. The arm angles, the maneuvering in the pocket for a guy who's not very fast, the throws, the clutch moments. And for him to do that heel turn over the last 4 or 5 years and become this villain in a lot of people's minds, and a lot of the reasons why, obviously not football related, but that's on him. And honestly, he wasn't good last year with the Jets. He wasn't good his last year with the Packers. I honestly think we're talking and spending so much oxygen on a guy who is just all about himself, and who's not going to make a team that much better, in my opinion, whether he goes to Pittsburgh or whether it ends up maybe in Minnesota and does the full Brett Favre treatment. To me, just if he wants to say I'm not going to play, that's good. Get him out of here. I honestly don't care anymore about Aaron Rodgers and the little he has left to offer. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to be a Bears killer forever, and I'll say good riddance. That's fine with me.
Another team that wants to say good riddance, but in a different direction, sticking with the NFL, is the Green Bay Packers. I know they were one of the teams, the first team to send a complaint to the league office about banning the tush push. Let's be real here. Do you really see the NFL banning that? I don't. One way to get rid of it, quote unquote, get rid of it, stop it. Maybe just be. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's funny how all these teams now that they can't stop it, and they can't do it either. That's the other thing, Sid. These teams try to do it and they can't. It's something about the way Philly has practiced it over the years. It's not just their O-line, because Kelsey retired and they still did it successfully last year. Maybe it's just Jalen Hurts is so unique in his stature, and he's got thighs the size of a Brinks truck. Maybe that's part of it. But you would think like Josh Allen could do it. He's a big quarterback, or some other guys. But yeah, I think it would take a serious injury for a star quarterback trying it, whether it's Hurts or someone else. You always see those guys. They come out of it, they try to sneak, and their necks are, they got to be really hurting themselves trying that multiple times a game, especially if you're Philly. So I think it would take like a serious injury on the play for them to really rethink, all right, maybe this is not safe for the league to have. But right now it's about, we can't stop it and we can't do it if we're not Philly.
Let's stay in the NFC North and talk a little bit about Minnesota. They've picked up a couple defensive guys. They beef up their O-line a little bit. What do you think the chances are perhaps maybe challenging in the NFC North?
Yeah, to me, it comes down to JJ McCarthy, because it feels like they're ready to hand the reins to the local kid who grew up in our area, played high level here for Nazareth before going to IMG. Great stories, a winner everywhere he's been, obviously in Michigan, and then had a good training camp and a couple games of exhibition before getting hurt last year. He was probably in line to be a guy that we would never have heard of the Sam Darnold revolution if maybe JJ gets the keys right away, but ends up being Darnold's exceeds everyone's expectations. He gets paid, and now McCarthy, it's his time. And so, do you feel like JJ McCarthy is ready as a rookie in his second year, really, if we think about it that way, to lead an offense that has still a lot of talent? To me, I'd rather bet on Caleb Williams and what the Bears are building to pass up the Vikings, and I still don't think the Lions are going anywhere. And I think, the Packers are intriguing with Jordan Love kind of taking a step back from what expectations were last year. Do they, find a way to add a big weapon in the draft for him still? But yeah, I kind of look at Minnesota as the probably least of my teams that I would be worried about if I'm a Bears fan in the NFC North, honestly, unless McCarthy just comes out and look, we didn't see it in Michigan because they ran the ball 50 times a game with Harbaugh, right? They just didn't want to do something that they didn't need to. It's not like they didn't trust JJ, just like running the ball works for us. We're going to win a national championship doing it. Why not? Why differ from what we're going to do? Why stray from that? So, I'm curious to see what McCarthy can do in Minnesota. I'd be rooting for him because he's a local guy. But beyond that, in the pecking order of teams I'm excited about in the NFC North, I'd probably put them last.
We're hanging out with Josh Frydman from WGN Sports here in Chicago, right here on Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena here with you on our hashtag Friday Fun Edition. We're heading down the home stretch with our guy. Josh, let's transition over to baseball. We'll start with your Cubs after losing the first two games in Japan against the Dodgers. I guess any other team outside the Dodgers they played, they look quote-unquote unbeatable despite Justice still struggling last night. They get the win on the road against the Diamondbacks 10-6. What's your outlook for the Cubs this year? Is it NL Central or bust?
Yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be NL Central or bust. The team is built to win this year. Jed Hoyer, in his contract season, knows that. You don't trade Cam Smith, who makes the opening day roster in Houston, and trade away, Isaac Paredes for a one-year rental of Kyle Tucker without having the payoff be the playoffs. And I still think long-term, if they don't re-sign Tucker, which I'm not betting they do, it's still a big gamble to trade away a top prospect and a guy who's in his mid-20s. It's also in the middle of the order for Houston. And Hayden Wesneski, let's not forget that. It didn't work out here, but he's going to be in the rotation in Houston. So, yeah, it's an all-in year. To me, watching the Tokyo games, it was wonky, right? I'm not going to take too much out of it. Having these guys start, I was there in spring training. It was Super Bowl Sunday, they reported. So only about 3 or 4 days before the rest of the Major League reported, but it felt earlier. And they didn't say they had to speed anything up, but at the same time, just getting to camp earlier, knowing the games, the travel, the jet lag, I'm not going to take too much out of it. Oh, by the way, playing the best team in baseball too. And really being competitive for a good part of those games. You had kind of one bad inning, Steele giving up the home runs in game 2, but they were in that. They had a chance tying run to the plate in the 9th inning. So, yeah, I wish those games counted as exhibitions because I think they're fun for baseball and they're fun for the world on that stage. But don't make them count for one of the 162. Make them 2 more exhibition games. You're just playing MLB exhibition games against Japanese teams and the Dodgers in this case. I would have preferred that to happen. And look, you can't make too much of an excuse about it because the Dodgers played in Korea to start the season last year. obviously they went on to win the whole thing. So I'm still bullish on this Cubs team winning the division. Beyond that, I still think they're a tier below, even those next best teams like the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. I'd put, in probably the conversation the Cubs are in, but that's probably third or fourth, maybe fifth best in the National League. The Braves, I think, are still one of the elite teams. The good news for the Cubs is those best teams are in the West and the East. So you should win your division. I think Milwaukee, everyone wants to start counting the Brewers' demise. They always seem to be there, even though they trade away some of their best players and guys get hurt. So I'm not ready to count that out. I think the Reds were that sneaky, sexy team. They still need to get some stuff straight. They blew a game in the ninth inning, game one, so their bullpen is still a little bit of a mess. So, yeah, I think the Cubs have the pieces to win close to 90 games, and there really shouldn't be any excuses why they shouldn't win the division and make the postseason run for the first time in a full season since 2017.
Right there with you on that, Josh. Let's go across town and talk White Sox. They actually looked good yesterday. They looked competent. Sean Burke actually looked...
Not just the milkshakes on the south side, guys.
Exactly. Right, exactly. Benintendi, of course, had a home run. Sosa looked good. Slater looked good. What's the ceiling for the White Sox? Is it 60, 65 or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know if we should use the word ceiling with the White Sox anytime soon. I think the better news is that the floor, I don't think is going to be a 120 loss team. The talents may not be that much more improved, honestly, from last year's team, but I think the culture is a lot better. I think Will Venable is, and I got to spend a little time with him. He's just a guy that's really, smart, respected. He's been around the best in the game as a bench coach, as a player, and it's going to take some time for him to learn the nuances of calling the shots, but he has that leeway now because it's just a looser environment. There was so much stress going into last year. Pedro probably should have not had a second year. There was some reporting that Jerry didn't want to fire him after 1 year, even though he knew he should have, because got to pay the guy an extra year, right? You don't want to start paying another manager, and that's part of the White Sox, issues, not spending money in the right places. But I think the rotation is going to be a little sneaky good. I think Sean Burke is the first sign of that. I made the comparison. Look, last year, no one expected Garrett Crochet to be the opening day starter, let alone be a Cy Young contender. It worked out really well for the White Sox. I don't think Sean Burke is going to be a Cy Young contender, but it's guys, that aren't household names that start to become, with this Brian Bannister pitching infrastructure, really, really good. And, you're still a year or two away, I think, from seeing those big dominant lefties like Hagen Smith and Noah Schultz in the big leagues. There's no reason to rush them, but, pay attention to Sean Burke. Shane Smith, the guy that got in the Rule 5 draft, pay attention to him as a prospect as well. And then, you saw a little bit from Jonathan Cannon. Davis Martin's healthy. So I think those are guys, if you're a White Sox fan, you want to see those guys, give you some quality starts. And as far as the offense goes, look, if Andrew Benintendi hits and maybe you can trade him for something in the trade deadline, that's what I would count on. Luis Robert Jr. smoked a ball in the first inning, double. You want him to continue to have a bounce back year because that's going to increase the trade value for a guy that just doesn't fit the timeline for the White Sox. So, I would say it's still probably a 55 to 60 win team, but that's a big improvement from last year. And so if that gives people more of a chance to tune in or go to the ballpark and get your milkshake and enjoy the White Sox again, it's gonna be a long season, but maybe more days like yesterday are actually in store for this team. The Angels, by the way, very bad team. So let's just say that.
Outside the milkshake shakes, Josh, you can tailgate, especially in Lot B. So if you have the time, come down to Lot B to tailgate with us, and I guarantee you'll have a good time. So that's better outside the milkshakes. But last question from me, going back to the Cubs. Shota Imanaga had a very good rookie year last year. I know he's struggling in his opening start against the Dodgers. Where do you expect out of him in year two as the league tries to figure out his pitching patterns heading to his sophomore season?
Yeah, look, Shota. First of all, I love Shota. Love watching him. The flair he has on the mound. All the kind of body language and just the facial expressions. Whether he just misses a pitch. Or even when, I think it was, I forgot who hit it last year, but someone hit a big home run off him, and he kind of was like, ooh, all right. I didn't expect that. It's fun to see, right? And he's got that personality. So I love watching him pitch. He's such a unique guy because he's, 5'10", maybe? And, he, as a lefty, you just don't see that very often. I think that helps, in a way, his fastball play up because it's not more than a 93, 94 mile per hour fastball, but the arm angle is a little different from what you see as a lefty. The off-speed stuff is really good. And I think, yeah, he's going to get hit for some home runs. We saw that last year. I think the peripheral numbers suggest his ERA goes a little higher as well. And I think guys will figure that out. But I think Shota will also figure some stuff out too to go mano a mano and kind of combat what the league is going to bring him. And I think he's just a really cerebral, smart pitcher. The philosopher was his nickname, in Japan, the pitching philosopher. So yeah, I always like watching him pitch. The Cubs are missing a true ace. I think Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga are great number 2 pitchers. And I think Jameson Taillon can be a number 2 pitcher too. But who's that number 1 guy? Who's that guy that you're going to throw game 1 of a playoff series that's going to really instill fear in another team? I don't know if they have that. Philly's got it in Zach Wheeler. Dodgers have about 5 of them. You could say Arizona's now got it in Corbin Burns. So to me, if you're a competitive team this summer, find a way to go get an ace at the trade deadline. That would be something where you're really going to solidify that rotation next to, I think, a pretty deep, pretty good rotation, but not an elite one.
Last question for me, Josh. A little college hoops here. I won't ask you about your Mizzou Tigers. Of course, they had that loss to Drake.
I actually picked Drake to beat them. I did not feel good about that matchup. So.
Oh, okay.
That was maybe the one thing I got right in my bracket. It hasn't been good.
There you go. So a little bit, consolation there. But if you have a men's champion, who is that? And of course, on the women's side, with Doug Bruno retiring from coaching the DePaul women's team after 39 years, he was the coach of that squad. Built the program up. Who do you think is going to be the coach there?
I haven't thought about who's going to take over. That's a good question. Jill Pizzati was the interim this year. They could, she's been on the staff for a long time. Obviously getting basically the full year under her belt as the interim head coach. They could give it to Pizzati. But I haven't talked to many people yet about that. It's an intriguing job because, as opposed to the men, DePaul women's basketball, at least in the last 20 years, has a resume and a built up product where they're usually making NCAA tournament runs. It's been a couple down years lately, but that's a team, that's a program where I think you can get a coach in and who wants to be there to build some stuff up. So yeah, I think it's going to be a job that people are attracted to. Men's side, Duke has been my pick. I thought that was getting a little close for comfort last night. We were watching both games simultaneously. That Arkansas collapse was interesting. So those were fun games at the end after a couple blowouts early. I'm not wavering. I think Duke is going to get there. I thought St. John's was going to be the pick on the other side of the bracket. So that was my fault, trusting a team that really wasn't that good offensively all year, but Pitino back in the tournaments, defense first. I thought that could go far. It didn't work out. So yeah, I'll say Duke, and I'll say Duke against Florida. I think Florida's looked pretty good. Yeah.
All right, this has been Josh Frydman, sports anchor reporter for WGNTV in Chicago. You can catch him on GN Sports tonight. During the week at 10:30, that's every night on Channel 9. Josh, thank you so much for taking time on your busy schedule to join us. I know, like LaKeena said, it's been a while, but we're glad to have you back on the program. Tell the rest of the sports office we said hello, and we'll definitely have you back on again, hopefully sooner rather than later, okay?
Sounds good, Sid and LaKeena. Thank you, guys.
No problem.
All right, thank you.
See you, Josh.
See ya.
All right, that was WGNTV's Josh Frydman here on Second Stage Sports. Okay, Sid, let's recap that those East and West region games from yesterday. Yes, and we'll preview the South and the Midwest regions. Those games are tonight. We'll talk a little women's hoops as well and how JuJu Watkins' injury is going to affect that region, and of course, some
is it over?
Yeah, right. Is also sports media news. Some big changes at the top of a couple of CBS's top announcing teams. We'll have that and so much more coming up next. LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, March Madness, and some potpourri coming up right after this. Oh, where's that effect? Where's that effect? We gotta have an effect somehow.
Yes, we'll get it sooner or later.
Exactly.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports and the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked in in real live and living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X and Keena McGee and IG.
In our potpourri segment, including breaking news from the college football world, if you have any questions or comments for us, and or during our interview in our last break with Josh Frydman from WGN, if you have any comments on that, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you.
Let's start our little potpourri segment, if you will, with the men's tournament. Of course, the East and the West regions commenced last night over, in Newark and in San Francisco, respectively. Of course, Alabama, we'll start with a record breaker. Alabama not only broke the record for most of three-point attempts, 51, but also three-point attempts made, which is 25. That's I think it's about a 33-year record. Of course, the Loyola Marymount with Bo Kimball and those teams who beat Michigan. They actually ended up losing that game to Michigan, in 91, by the way. But but they did beat BYU 113-88, and BYU is one of those teams where look, they'll make you shoot threes in order for you to beat them. Okay, Alabama said fine, we'll break the record for most 3 points by shooting nearly 50% there. Mark Sears had 34 points, was a season high for him, but Nate Holloway had 23 off the bench for Alabama. So a nice win by the Crimson Tide.
I told you almost a month ago that I like that Alabama team is one of my other sleepers to win the tournament because they're a very balanced team. And I said this after they beat Auburn in that classic game right before the SEC tournament. I like that team. Mark Spears, that's my guy running the point. But Alabama can score with the best of them. You mentioned with the balanced scoring that they had last night. They can shoot the ball better than anybody in the country, even including BYU last night. But Alabama has raw athleticism both on the wing and inside, but they're shooting. They rode with it last night. And no, I don't care if it was UConn from last year or any other great college basketball teams in the past. When a team like Alabama was shooting lights out like the way they did last night, no team was going to stop them.
And they got a really should be one of the more entertaining regional finals coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a second here. But first, in the West region, back in San Fran, Florida, no trouble with Maryland, 87-74. They're going back to the Elite Eight for the first time since 2014. Walter Clayton Jr. had 13 points. Will Richard had 15. So again, the balanced scoring there. They were up only 2 against Maryland at the half, but sort of like an offensive explosion for Florida as they outscored Maryland 47-33 in the second half.
And also, too, Florida had a plus 22 advantage overall in rebounding, 42-20. And they shot the ball well, as you mentioned, overall at 50%, 39% for 3. And I think I told you I had Florida winning it all. The reason why I said it because they're well balanced. Not only they can killing you inside, they can shoot the ball outside as well. And they're sneaky good in defense. And that's what they had to do during the last stretches of that game last night. So Florida getting it done. I'm not surprised at that. I told you Maryland was one of my sleepers, not to win it, but to make it far to the tournament. They actually met my expectations of getting to the Sweet 16. So a good season by Maryland, but Florida was the better team. They came through down the stretch last night.
Yeah, they definitely. I think their def wore them out in the end. Back to New Jersey. Duke, as Josh said a few minutes ago, that was a little bit close one for a little bit for them against Arizona. Caleb Love had 35 points in the losing effort. Of course, he spent 3 years in North Carolina, so he knows this Duke team very well. But it wasn't enough. As check out the stats for Cooper Flag. Sid 30 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. 3 points made and 3 blocks. No other Division I player this century has reached all those numbers in any regulation game, NCAA tournament or otherwise. I know Rivas Vasquez back in 2009 was close to that, but he didn't hit that mark where Flag did. But Kong Knuppel had 20 points as well. So they made the shots late. It got close. I think Arizona got down to 1, but Flag and Knuppel, I think Proctor too also made a couple of defensive stops. So and a couple of blocks by Kamad Malik as well. So and Flag too. So yeah, they were able to squeak out against Arizona.
Even though Arizona scored 93 points last night, LaKeena, I don't know about you, but I got the feeling that it was Caleb Love and no one else really helped them because if it wasn't for Caleb Love, Arizona would have been blown out to in that second half. I know they made a charge late, but if it was for Caleb Love, Arizona would have been embarrassed. Now on the flip side for the Blue Devils, you mentioned we talked about their depth when Cooper Flag injured his ankle in the ACC tournament. You mentioned about Knuppel and Tyrese Proctor, who I like a lot. They carried that the rest of that Duke team. They did it again last night. Cooper Flag, as you mentioned, was excellent. You mentioned this time last week when the tournament started. I didn't want him to play in that first game, but he was moving great. He showed he's still showing no signs of that injured ankle. It's been I believe about 2 weeks now since he injured that ankle, so he's really looked good. Duke has really have good depth. No, I'm not cheering for him or anything like that. Do I have a strong hate for them like I did in years past? No. A lot of that, at least I'll just speak for me, is due to the even though he's a Chicago guy, a large part of it dismay my hatred, using air quotes there, is toward Coach K, but we'll discuss that another time. But John Shire, he's really done a great job with that program. Almost got them to the Final Four last year. Looks like if things go their way, they'll return to the Final Four for the first time in several years. So Duke has a well-balanced team, and they're definitely going to be a tough out.
Yeah, going back to Love for a second. He scored like 17 points, straight points. So yeah, it was kind of like him and the rest of the Arizona, and they weren't able to help him out when he needed it. He actually did try to try to tie the game to force overtime, but it didn't fall. So yeah, that's a tough one, but a great career overall for Mr. Love. So salute to him. Now, what ended up being the game of the night in San Francisco. Okay, Arkansas was up by as much as 16 in the second half, but Texas Tech said no, as these are old Southwest Conference rivals from back in the day.
You really going back?
Oh God, right. Darian Wilson, 22 points. Of course, he scored like 6 of those points. That kind of got the club back. He forced overtime there. He had a great jumper over the Arkansas defender that forced overtime, but it was actually Kevin Overton who actually came in and kind of started that rally. He had a big three that kind of started that rally. Easy for me to say. God, I can't talk.
I know. Been there too.
Yeah. So it happens, but but yeah, Arkansas. Of course, Janelle Davis had 30 points, a season high for him. Carter Knox had 20. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And Tech, to give to their credit, look, Grant McCaskill, I don't know what he said to them in the second half, but they listened to him and they were able to complete this, probably the second biggest comeback in the Sweet 16 run in history.
Yeah, and number 2 with that run last night, LaKeena, in regulation, the Red Raiders ended regulation on a 16-3 run and tying that game in force in overtime. Now, on the flip side for Arkansas, I'll put my quote-unquote hate of Calipari to the side for this point. I did feel sorry for those kids at Arkansas last night. They did play their hearts out. They just couldn't hold on. But coming into the year, looking out, including your show, that no one expected Arkansas to do much coming out of a tough SEC conference, which got 14 teams into the tournament. I'm sure they'll pick to finish middle to dead last in the SEC, and being Calipari's first year down there, I'm sure no one expected much. You expected them to be competitive, but you didn't expect them to get to the Sweet 16 in this year's tournament. And they could have been, if they would have held on last night, they would have been in the Elite 8. But Arkansas, very good year for that program. If you're a Razorbacks fan, you hope to see them make improvements, especially now with the transfer portal and NIL blowing up the way it is, and being the part of college sports culture going forward. You expect Arkansas to make better noise next year. We'll see about that now with Calipari entering year number 2 in that program. On the flip side for Texas Tech, I know a few people are talking about them being a sneaky pick to win the title. I know Buzz Williams got them there many years ago, but as you mentioned, with the new head coach, he has around on the cusp of getting to the Final Four. We'll talk about their matchup coming up in just a second, which I think is going to be tougher. But JT Toppett and Darian Williams, they have some two beasts inside, as the kids were saying. Both of them had 20 points each last night, so they're going to be needed in their next matchup. But I expect their guards to step up and have a good game too against their next opponent, which we'll talk about here in a second. So for Texas Tech to get back to the Final Four for the first time in a few years, they're going to need an all-around effort, especially from their guards.
Going back to Coach Cal, he was 35 straight NCAA tournament wins when leading by 6+ points at halftime. Well, that has been snapped. Of course, that was the longest, since John Wooden did it back. That was all the way back in 1956 and 1975. They were actually playing less games back then. So go figure with that one now. Well, let's do the West. The South and the Midwest games real quick. You got Mrs. Ole Miss and Michigan State. That should be a fun one. Of course, Chris Beard, who led that Texas Tech squad to the Final Four back in 2019. That should be a fun one there. An all SEC, SEC regional semi here. You got Kentucky and Tennessee. That should be a fun one. They split their meeting earlier this in the regular season, so that should be a fun one. Michigan and Auburn. Now, I know the Dusty May, they're playing with house money. This is in the South region, so that'll be on CBS as well. And I'm looking forward to see how that kind of struck, because Auburn's a little bit banged up. I think Michigan could take advantage of that, so we'll see. Back to the Midwest region, we're off to excuse me, I can't talk today, but Purdue and Houston, and that should be an interesting matchup there. So like I said, I know that a lot of people didn't think that Purdue would probably get this far. So if you're a Matt Painter, you're pretty good so far. So that should be a fun matchup there. He's a good matchup coming up over at State Farm Arena in the South region, and in the Midwest region and down over over at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indy. That's where the Colts play. So some good matches coming up in the West and the South regions.
I'll start off with the bottom game up and then work our way up. Purdue, Houston. Purdue, you mentioned, given their late season struggles, they're lucky to be here in this one tonight. But I think Houston has too much talent, especially at the guard position. So I expect Houston to shoot the lights out from three, get into transition. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to blow out Purdue, but I won't be surprised if that happened. Michigan, Auburn. I think it's going to come down to the inside play. Joni Broom. For Auburn, he's very good. My guy Denver Jones, who runs the point for the Tigers. Expect both those guys to have big games. I know Vladimir Golden has had a big year for Michigan State, but unless their guards show up, it's going to be a long night. So I'm taking Auburn in that one. In the first game, I'm taking Houston. In the Michigan-Auburn game, I'm taking Auburn. Kentucky, Tennessee. I think it's going to come down to limiting the fast breaks. We all know that Tennessee likes to get out and run. Kentucky, not so much. Even though they can do it, they're not really known for that. So I think head coach Mark Pope is going to have to watch out for that, because if Tennessee gets out and run, it's going to be a long now for the Wildcats. I know the Wildcats dominated the Illini with their inside play, especially with the offensive rebounds last weekend in Milwaukee. But if Tennessee gets out and plays their style, it's going to be a long night for the Wildcats. I'm taking Tennessee in that one. And Ole Miss in Michigan. I'm looking for my guy Jace Richardson to have a big performance tonight. I'm not sleeping on Ole Miss. I think they'll give Michigan State the game, but Michigan State is the play here. So take Tom Izzo and his Michigan State Spartans in that game tonight.
Could be interesting how the crowds are down there in Atlanta. I think that's going to be kind of the key here. Will there be more Ole Miss fans or Sparty fans? So we'll see what happens there tonight. Now going into tomorrow's matches, these are regional finals. They're going to be playing early down over there in San Francisco, Texas Tech and Florida. Now, will Texas Tech have enough energy after going that furious comeback they had against Arkansas? Because remember, Florida, they can go a good 12 deep, so they can wear you out with their depth. So if you're Florida, you want to try to kind of maybe send a message early to Tech, and perhaps maybe because Tech's going to want to slow it down. So Florida likes to play fast. So that's going to be the key who can get that edge there tomorrow.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I think the first 5-10 minutes of the game is going to set the tone what's going to happen for the rest of the game. You mentioned with Texas Tech playing overtime, even though it was just one overtime last night, five regulation minutes. That's still, especially at this time of year, we're playing every other day. On the weekends, of course, that wears down on your body, and fatigue will become a factor. So Florida, if they jump out into a big lead, how will Texas Tech counter that? If they can't counter that right away, it's going to be a long night for them. I'm taking Florida in this one.
I agree. I'm taking Florida as well. Now going to the East region, of course, both these games will be on the TBS simulcast on True TV. You got Alabama and Duke, the top two teams in the East region. This was probably the matchup that a lot of people wanted. Everyone wanted pretty much for the most part. Alabama was one of the top scoring teams in the nation. Duke's not too far behind, so it's not like they can't score. But can they? Bama, can they match that 3-point performance they had against BYU? Look, we know Duke can defend the 3-point shot very well, so it's gonna be interesting what kind of edges out. I'm picking Duke in this one. It's gonna be a slugfest, but I think Duke will ultimately win it. Though I feel like, but I think this one might go into like 1 or 2 overtimes. I think.
Like you said, if Alabama plays their style, I think they're gonna win. Not absolutely going away, but Alabama should win this game if they play their style. But like you said, LaKeena, with Duke, and you just stole one of my points, their perimeter defense is going to be key, because if Alabama could get a type of performance like they did last night, Duke's in trouble. We talked about Duke's depth, and which is definitely going to be needed in this one because Alabama can also run 7, 8, 9, 10 deep as well. So if Duke plays their start early, it's going to be a long night for Alabama. But if I'll just say this in terms of the scoring, I don't think you're going to see 100 points from either of these teams in this game. Both teams scored 100 points in their respective victories last night. I'll say this: the first team to get to 80 wins. Whoever scores 80 or gets close to 80, I think they'll win this game. I think that's what's going to come down to. Like you said, is Duke will probably enforce their slow down style more than Alabama's. Alabama is athletic, as I mentioned, they can get up and down the floor. But if Duke can control the tempo and limit Alabama's 3-point attempts, I think they'll win this game. I think, as you said, it's going to be a close one. I think the first one to 80 points will win. Even though I'm cheering hard as hell for Alabama, I think Duke will come out in a close one here.
Could be interesting to see what happens there on the men's side, because by this time we'll be talking about a Final Four here. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports with kind of LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown with you. Real quick, we'll talk a little women's tournament here. Of course, the big story. Well, first, there actually is one game going on right now in the Birmingham region, the Sweet 16. You got two old HC rivals, Duke's down early, I should say, against North Carolina in the first quarter. They're about to wrap that up, so you guys can probably watch us at the same time. You can put that game on mute. Maryland, they host South Carolina in that region as well. On ESPN, you got LSU and NC State in the Spokane region. Don't ask me how they did this, folks. Of course, capping off UCLA and Ole Miss on there. Don't ask me how they did this, folks. It's kind of crazy how they did this, but it is what it is.
I'm looking forward to watching my girl now, Lauren Betts from UCLA, as we said to Maggie Hendricks a couple of weeks ago from Yahoo Sports. Excuse me. She, as the kids would say, she's a beast and a beast for real. Not compared to, no disrespect when I say this, not compared to the one in Iowa State. She's really big, literally, but with all due respect, I digress. But Lauren Betts is, in my opinion, the best female big in the country. So the other two games that I watch outside of the UCLA game a few weeks ago, she's that chick in the middle in women's college basketball. I think, and we'll get to the JuJu Watkins angle of it in just a moment, but Lauren Betts is you guys haven't watched her play for UCLA, watch her. She really controls the paint.
Going to tomorrow's games, of course, these games, some of these games will be on ABC. Again, back in the Birmingham region, you have Notre Dame and TCU. That should be a fun one there. Notre Dame actually beat TCU early in the season. That's going to be at noon. 2:30 after that, you got Tennessee and Texas. That should be a fun one there. The Battle of the SEC there is also going to be streamed on ESPN Plus. Now, these games are going to be on ESPN in Spokane. You've got Oklahoma against Paige Beckers and the UConn Huskies. Of course, USC now without JuJu Watkins. They face K-State now. Unfortunately, she tore her ACL against Mississippi State. Just a horrible injury there. It happened on Monday. And, Kiki Arrived, of course, look, she has a national championship when she was at Stanford, when she was a freshman, so she knows, how to win. It's really her and Raya Marshall's team now. They stepped it up once JuJu got hurt. So, but also Avery Howe, she scored 18 off the bench, was a season high for her. So those girls are gonna have to step up for JuJu. So I think somewhere they're gonna want to prove that they were more than just JuJu Watkins. So we'll see if USC can do it.
I think they'll win tonight, but after that, I think it's going to be tough. But with the JuJu Watkins injury, it was so sad to watch it, and my heart goes out to her. I know she'll deal with this. She'll become a better player next year once she returns to the court. But I want to ask you, LaKeena, and I'm asking this as a casual women's college basketball fan. Is this for the casual fan? Do you think that this March Madness tournament is over? Even though I've given you some names with Paige Beckers of UConn. You still got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish team. Of course, Lauren Betts from UCLA. And don't forget about Dawn Staley in South Carolina, even though on paper they have the quote-unquote weakest squad compared to all the other years that they went to the Final Four and won their titles. Do you think that the women's college basketball tournament is quote unquote over because JuJu Watkins is not there?
Yeah, it shouldn't, because you just mentioned a lot of the names. You got Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame, of course, Paige Beckers from UConn, Madison Booker from Texas, I should say. I said, Kiki Uriah Finn from now USC. Of course, she was at Stanford for about 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I think it's there, but you kind of wonder like how the ratings are going to be. The ratings so far they've been okay, but they haven't been great so far. So I don't know if this will take a little damper in the ratings, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we all talked about what the ratings were going to be with Kayla Clark not being there anymore, being in the WNBA. They actually, like I say, just like the Kayla Clark ratings are just like the Jordan ratings in the 90s. You had people that didn't give a damn about sports watching Michael Jordan in the 90s. The same effect that Kayla Clark had last year. Everybody who didn't give a damn about sports watched Caitlin Clark. It was a phenomenal story, but we saw this LaKeena in the late 90s going into the 2000s that the NBA's ratings weren't as good when Jordan was playing compared to when he was playing. And that's the same thing that we're watching here with women's college basketball. Fortunately, it's going to take a dip because JuJu Watkins is not there, but you still have some big name stars. So I want to see what the ratings are going forward starting this weekend.
Could be very interesting. There's just I can see sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena McGee Sidney Brown with you guys. Still got a few more minutes here before we wrap things up. We got some sports media news. Sid, I know you got a couple of good ones here, so you start us off.
Before we get to the sports media news, breaking news in college football, it actually broke during our interview with Josh Frydman from Channel 9. Deion Sanders signs a 5-year extension worth 5 years, $54 million, and his pay increase will go up in years 2028 and 2029 for the Colorado Buffaloes. Of course, two of his top players, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, will be picked, at least projected to be picked. Those players being picked within the first 10 selections in this year's upcoming NFL draft. We all know that Deion Sanders can recruit. I want to see who's going to be his quarterback and star wide receiver for next year. It's not easy replacing those two players that I just mentioned on the roster. Colorado improved with Deion Sanders in his first 2 years, 4-8 a couple of years ago. 93 last year, had a decent chance of playing in the Big 12 title game. Obviously, that didn't happen with them losing against Kansas on a neutral site on the last regular season weekend of the year. But Deion Sanders has the program going in the right direction. But for those of you that want him to coach in the NFL, not yet.
Yeah, I think that's basically what this contract is about. I think he's going to get like 10 to 13 million, I guess, each of those 5 years. So we'll be interested to see if he can kind of get, find the next Shedeur or the next Travis Hunter. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the key here for Coach Prime. Now, it'll be interesting, like down the line here. But, a nice investment from Colorado. Look, those crowds there. He's got the place rocking down there in Boulder. He's been at a few basketball games as well. So we'll see how he does. Once now that Shedeur is going to be is graduating. Hunter's gone. So I want to see how he does. How he how he replaces them.
Yeah, and plus he has a very good coaching staff. I know. Warren Sapp coaches the defensive line. Pat Shermer, former NFL coach and offensive coordinator in the NFL. He's the offensive coordinator for the Colorado Buffaloes now. So he did a good job with Shedeur Sanders last year as well. So congratulations to Coach Prime, and we'll see how Colorado goes as they continue to improve going forward. Now to the sports media news. CBS Sports will experience changes in their booth when it comes to college and pro football. We'll start off with the NFL first. Ian Eagle, the number 2 voice in the NFL, he'll have a new analyst, game analyst. His name is JJ Watt, who was used sporadically during last season as the not the leading guy, but the third wheel, as you used to say on the NFL studio analyst for the NFL Today, behind Nate Burleson, Matt Ryan, and Coach Coward. So JJ Watt will be moving from the studio to the booth, calling games with Ian Eagle.
Now I'm wondering, will they have him do a few games with him to kind of so that he can get the feel of it and such. I know our girl Chrissy Medica, who KXRB, she's taking a week off by the way, said that said that well they Brady him. Well, not exactly. I wouldn't say they Brady him per se. I think they're just sort of is the heir apparent, if you will. And I know Jason McCurdy and Nate Burleson were also up for the job as well. So but they ended up again. So I'm sure they're gonna want to give some game action. I'm talking about Watt, so he can get the feel of it. He can kind of sort of see how it goes. Maybe not the whole season, but maybe just maybe a few games, maybe half the game, so that he can kind of get the feel and get used to it and get comfortable. Because we saw what happened with Brady. That whole season. I mean, he was not very good those first few weeks, but he did get better as the weeks went on. So I'm wondering that's going to happen with Watt.
Probably the same thing. Anything that a new adventure, a new job that you're tasked to do is going to take some time. No one is batting 1,000 right away. So for JJ Watt, this is a new experience for him. I think he'll get better at it. So I'm sure him and I are going to call some quote unquote fake games between now and the start of the preseason so they can get a feel for one another. But you don't get that true experience. I don't care what you do, whether doing what we're doing or doing TV or radio, until you actually get some experience. You can do all the simulation you want to, but until you actually get that experience, you just don't know how good you could be until you get that actual experience. Now, this move affects the college football side of things for CBS. Gary Danielson will retire as a TV analyst. Replacing him will be Charles Davis. People forget he did some college games before at the old network at Fox. So me personally, selfishly speaking, I'm gonna miss him calling NFL games, but this is a great move for CBS as he'll be paired up with Brad Nessler.
Yeah, Charles Davis is probably one of the most underrated football analysts, both college and pro. He's very versatile. I think he did golf for the Golf Channel for a little bit. That's how versatile he is. So he's very well respected and very smart. So I think he's definitely will fit right in. I know this is not SEC because he's a former Tennessee Vol, but he played there during the mid '80s. But I think he'll do just fine with that Big Ten schedule with Brad Nessler. Of course, Gary Danielson announced his retirement after this season coming up. He's been doing this for like 36 years. He was doing it over at ESPN. I remember he did that for a few years. Then he went over to ABC, did it with both Brent Musburger and Brad Nessler. For the course he moved over to CBS, did it with Vern for a few years. He went reunited with Brad Nessler. So now he's going to be he's called some great games over the years in the SEC and the Big Ten too. When he was over the ABC. So a really great career, probably one of the more underrated, a long time college football analyst. But it's kind of an exciting time, but definitely an end of an era there with Danielson retiring.
Yeah, things are changing in the horizon. So you give new opportunities to folks in the Gary Danielson, I should say. I can't talk today either, But you mentioned with his great resume, he's been one of the mainstays of college football TV for years, and so salute to you and good luck in your retirement. But Charles Davis, he'll do a better job. So CBS, it really isn't losing anything, to be honest with you.
No, they got a lot of great depth there.
They're really not. They actually lucked up here.
Yeah. I mean, look, broadcasting analysts, they got a nice, good depth of folks there. Of course, Spiro Diaz. Of course, we'll try to get him back on. Probably before the NBA playoffs. But yeah, I think he deserves an opportunity to call some of these big games. Just saying. Not saying it because he's a favorite of ours, but he deserves an opportunity. So, we'll see. But yeah, I think this is a great. I think listen, if anything, I think they just got better. So on both fronts. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Quickly, I know we ran it up against it. We got less than 2 minutes left. I'll just give my thoughts on the CHSN coverage of the White Sox game yesterday. I met John Shrevett again at the tailgate yesterday. And so I think he's back for year 2. I thought he did a good job with Steve Stone yesterday. I know they had some mic issues, especially during the interview with Derek. I don't know if you caught it, but with doing the interview with Connor McKnight and Derek Rose. Shout out D Rose. He brought his 2 kids out there for the first pitch yesterday. That was a nice moment. The crowd chanting MVP. That was awesome. But CHSN experienced some mic issues during the early stages of that game. If you paid attention closely, it was like a half a second behind all of them. But outside of that, it looks like for their plan going forward, with the White Sox broadcast, they're going to involve Brooke Fletcher, who's the new field reporter, and Connor Burnett, who's the White Sox insider for CHSN. They're going to involve them more with the broadcast. It's not going to be your cookie cutter report. He's hurt and he's a good guy. Bad to you, no. No one wants to hear that anymore. So, but outside of that issue, the mic issue earlier that I mentioned, I really enjoyed the broadcast from the CHSN yesterday, but unfortunately, I couldn't enjoy Chuck and Ozzy because one, I was at the game, and number two, they still don't have a damn deal with Xfinity/Comcast. I want to see the pregame show, folks. Get a deal done.
Yeah, for people wondering, it's okay. For people who are wondering where Scotty Pods, he actually works for the organization. He's kind of like a scouting development guy, so that's why you guys don't see him on the broadcast this year. So that's why he's not doing that. I'm sure they would have squeezed him in if they could, but he's working with the team now, so that's why.
Yeah. And I saw on social media yesterday, Chuck Garfien was wearing some special Ozzie Guillen socks. That's good luck. I guess if you want to credit that to the White Sox winning yesterday, go ahead. But I just saw that picture on social media. I don't know if you caught it.
Yeah, so I think he showed them and then the video that they posted. So it was actually pretty funny. A little freaky there with Ozzy socks, but that maybe he should market those. I guess Ozzy. I think I'm sure he'll appreciate the extra cash. But some breaking news from one of our favorites, our girl Cassie Carlson, friend of the show from Fox 32, is the new voice. Of course, now they're now going to be showing their games on Fox Chicago. She'll actually be doing the play-by-play starting this Sunday. She'll call the games with former Stars player and the World Cup champ for the U.S. national team. Also, she won 2 national championships wherever she was at North Carolina. Jessica McDonald. So that'll start.
For the soccer team, yes.
Yeah. So NWSL there for the Chicago Red Stars. So that actually will start there. Of course, they're the new home. I should say the new home. The Fox Chicago is now the new home for the Chicago Red Stars, the new TV home, I should say. So that I think they start. I think it's going to be on Sunday at 6:00, I believe. Eve. They started at 3:00. It's going to be on Fox Chicago Plus. Which is the local
formerly known as UPN, the power station from back in the day.
Yeah, that's
the old WPWR. That's
right,
Chicago Plus, Chicago Plus now.
Those who thank you, because those who are wondering, like, wait, what is she talking about? No, that's basically what it is now. It's not UPN or WPWR TV here in Chicago. It's now Fox Chicago Plus. So that's basically what that means. So so they face Racing Louisville FC, which is this Sunday at 3:00. On Fox Chicago Plus, so various games will be on. I think there are going to be a couple games on Fox Chicago prop, the main one, but it's mostly the games going to be on Fox Chicago Plus. So
congratulations! Congratulations to Cassie, friend of the show. Hopefully we can get her back on before training camp. So she's worked her tail off throughout her career, and definitely she's done it ever since she's returned to work back home professionally. So this opportunity is much well deserved.
She's definitely earned the opportunity, absolutely. So anything else before we disperse, Sid?
I'm good. I'm trying to enjoy this weather for this weekend before it rains like hell on Sunday, and so I'll be back out there. I'll be back out there at Sox Park tomorrow. Hopefully, the Sox can take 2 from the Angels. And shout out to the White Sox fans who cheered Tim Anderson yesterday. I was one of them. He got a big standing ovation, and he got a video tribute as well.
That was really cool. They booed Moncada though.
Yes.
So, I saw that one, like, okay, yeah. Show you how they feel about both those guys, different contrasts. But yeah, same here. I mean, look, I'll watch the West of the men's tournament. I'll watch the women's tournament as much as I can. And of course, baseball. The rest, I have to watch the national games because I can't watch the local teams, whatever. So I have to watch those. There, but yeah, I mean, it's a good time of year. Look, you got your baseball, you got your NBA finishing up their season, the NHL. I know yesterday, I know that Ovechkin. Actually, John Tortorella got fired, but the Flyers fired him yesterday. So would he be somebody? I forgot to ask Josh this. I meant to ask him that, but we ran out of time. But would he be someone that you consider coaching the Blackhawks?
I would like to see it, but I don't think the Blackhawks are ready to hire a guy like him yet. Because, with his resume and tenure, I know he went through that whole rebuild youth movement with Philadelphia, but I don't think at the point in his coaching career in his life that he wants to coach a rebuilding team. That's just my personal opinion. But selfishly, I want to see it, but I don't think the Hawks brass are ready to see him in that locker room. Do they need a guy like him? Yes. Do I think the Hawks will have the guts to do it? No. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you ask Kyle Davidson, the GM off the record, I think he may have to wait another 2 years before he would probably hire somebody like that. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that down the line because I think if you're the Blackhawks, you want to try to make that next step, perhaps maybe get a coach that can get you there. But again, we'll talk about that at a later time, though.
All right, LaKeena, take us home.
You can find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, executives again, IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. That's War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, we want to thank our buddy Josh Frydman from WGNTV for joining us today. You can catch him on Game Night tonight at 10 o'clock on WGNTV Chicago. And if you have YouTube TV, you can watch it on WGN Chicago TV there on your YouTube TV channel.
Yes, and as LaKeena mentioned, we have a potpourri full of sports, both college and pro this weekend. And basketball, baseball's back, and hockey is finishing up their regular season. So good time to be a sports fan and enjoy this great weather if you're in the Chicagoland area.
Well, it's supposed to rain like mostly on Sunday, especially.
Yeah.
Well, I think the day's tomorrow. I think the weather's not going to be as wet for tomorrow as it was supposed to be. Sunday is going to be the more wet weather there. So enjoy.
Good luck for the Sox getting that game in on Sunday. I don't think they will.
Yeah, they probably gonna have to postpone that and reschedule that. But even still, enjoy the baseball if you can. If you're on the Cubs and the White Sox side, because they may get rid of, if you have Comcast, they may get rid of Marquee later on tonight. So
that's gonna be in the highest tier from what I've heard. This is gonna be in the highest tier. That means your cable bill's gonna go up.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's another conversation for another time.
Yeah. We'll get into it properly with our special guest on Monday. You'll have to come back on Monday to see who we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. That's a tease. So you guys can ponder that next for over the weekend, early next week on Monday. It'll be the 31st, and it won't be the April Fool's Day just yet. So,
good one. Then think about that.
Yeah. So enjoy all the baseball, the basketball, both men's and women's college, and of course the NBA has to finish their seasons. You got hockey finishing up their season as well. Scottie Scheffler is in the lead right now. I gotta see what the freaking tournament is. Right before the Houston Open down there just outside Houston. And of course, you got the Masters coming up in a couple of weeks. So I'm sure he's gonna want some momentum there, and so much more stuff out there. Great time to be a sports fan, locally and nationally. So enjoy all that this weekend. For Sid, I'm LaKeena. Stay safe out there and be good to each other. It's Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Only the Bulls. Holla! Ha! Here go the big one. Oh!
Oh, God.